She was not supposed to breathe again. The earth above her should have been her coffin. Cold, heavy, final. But the girl clawed through it, nails split, fingers bleeding, lungs burning as dirt packed against her mouth and nose. She forced herself upward, coughing soil, spitting the grave out of her body. The night air hit her like a blade, sharp and cruel, yet alive. The wind screamed across the trees, tearing at her tangled hair, carrying the taste of iron and damp leaves. It was no ordinary wind. It seemed to know her name. It circled her like a warning and a promise, whispering through the branches, dragging her back from the silence where she should have stayed buried. Her chest heaved. Her ribs felt broken. Every breath was a theft. And still, she rose. Shadows stretched long across the forest floor, branches hooked like claws reaching for her. She staggered forward, barefoot, skin torn raw against roots and thorns. Behind her, the silence was broken by howls. Not the howl of family, not the song of belonging. These were execution calls, cold, merciless, the sound of wolves hunting the one they had condemned. Her heart slammed against her ribs. With every desperate beat, something inside her flickered, silver light that sparked beneath her skin, faint and unstable. It licked along her veins like fire that had not yet learned to burn. She pressed a hand against her chest, terrified someone might see the glow and call it proof that she was the curse they named her. The forest swallowed her in darkness. The air stank of moss and blood. She stumbled into a stream, icy water biting into her skin, dragging her deeper into the night. Her body begged her to collapse, to give in. But the memory of claws on her skin, of voices chanting that she was unworthy, burned hotter than exhaustion. She heard them behind her, rustling branches, snapping twigs, the low growl of something closing in. Her pulse quickened. She wanted to scream, but the earth had stolen her voice when they buried her. All that came out was a broken gasp as she scrambled up the bank, slipping on mud, clutching at roots. The wind howled louder, pulling her forward, as if it refused to let her stop. Another sound. Closer now. The heavy thud of paws. The gleam of eyes in the dark. She whipped around. Nothing. Just the crushing silence pressing in on all sides. Yet she felt it, something hunting her, not with hunger, but with purpose. Her breath caught. A branch snapped behind her. She ran. Every step was agony, her body screaming for rest, but fear pushed her harder. She tore through underbrush, thorns cutting into her arms, branches clawing at her face. Her heart blazed in her chest, silver sparks spilling faintly into the night, with every beat, too wild to control, too dangerous to hide. She wasn't set just running from them. She was running from herself. The wind shifted, cold against her cheek, carrying the scent of smoke and iron. It whispered again, louder this time, almost a voice. Not yet. Her knees buckled. She crashed to the ground, dirt filling her mouth once more. For a heartbeat, she thought this was the end, that the grave had followed her, demanding she finish what should have been finished hours ago. But she lifted her head. Her eyes burned. Somewhere ahead, through the trees, faint light shimmered. She dragged herself forward, nails ripping in the soil. The light grew brighter. The howls grew louder. The ground beneath her trembled with their pursuit, and yet, the wind pressed at her back, relentless, urging her to rise again. She stumbled into a clearing, chest heaving, hair wild, eyes wide with terror, and there on the edge of shadow, something moved. Someone, watching, waiting. But before his face could be revealed, the forest erupted behind her, a snarl, a rush of bodies, her pack, her executioners. She had only seconds. Her power flared in her veins, wild and untested. The silver light pulsed under her skin, threatening to burst free. Nobody survives being buried alive by their own pack, unless you're her. And if you want to know how far she'll go to claim her breath, her blood, her fire, subscribe to Clarissa Romance Collections, because this is only the beginning. She burst from the clearing, lungs burning, vision blurred with tears and dirt, and stumbled straight into the edge of the world. The ground gave way into nothing. A cliff. The earth split open before her, jagged stone dropping into a black abyss, where the river roared far below. She staggered, arms pinwheeling, boots skidding on loose gravel, until she dropped to her knees at the edge. Her chest heaved, fingers clawing at the dirt, trying to anchor herself against the pull of gravity. Behind her, the wolves closed in, their growls carried across the clearing like thunder, vibrating in her ribs. Eyes glowed in the shadows, pairs of them, dozens, all trained on her like she was nothing but prey. The sound of their claws striking stone, the snapping of branches as they advanced. It was a song of death she had already heard once tonight. Her body collapsed forward. She had nothing left, no strength, no more defiance to give. Her head bowed, hair falling across her face, her chest trembling with shallow breaths. Dirt clung to her lips. Her fingers curled weakly in the soil. And then, silence. The kind that cuts. The kind that means something larger than wolves has entered the clearing. She felt it before she saw him. The weight in the air shifted. The pack's growls faltered, low rumbles giving way to wary stillness. Even the wind stilled for a heartbeat, caught in its own breath. She lifted her head, every muscle heavy, and saw him. At the far edge of the clearing, the trees parted as though they themselves were afraid to touch him. He stepped forward with a presence that swallowed the night. Tall, shoulders cut from shadow, eyes burning like embers caught in gold. His stride was unhurried, deliberate, as though he already knew no one here would challenge him. The pack lowered their heads. Some growled softly, but none moved. Their claws dug into the dirt as their bodies bowed instinctively, pulled by an authority older than memory. She blinked against the blur of tears. Her body screamed to retreat, but there was nowhere left to run. She forced her palms flat into the dirt and dragged herself backward, inch by inch, until the cliff pressed against her spine. There was nothing behind her but the abyss, nothing before her but him. The Alpha. His gaze locked on her and did not waver. His expression unreadable, carved from steel and shadow. Yet his eyes, those golden eyes, flickered with something dangerous. Not just power, recognition. He stopped only a few feet away. The wolves held their distance, frozen, watching their leader. The night hummed with tension so sharp it was painful. And then he spoke. His voice was low, steady, threaded with something that dug beneath her skin. "Get up." Her chest seized. She wanted to answer, to shout at him, to tell him she couldn't, but the grave still clung to her throat. Only a rasp escaped, broken and weak. He stepped closer. The gravel shifted under his boots. His shadow fell over her, cold and heavy. He crouched down slowly, folding his body into the dirt, as though the weight of the night didn't touch him. His eyes stayed on hers, too close now, too sharp. He said her name. Her breath stopped. Nobody here had spoken it since they buried her. Nobody should remember it. Yet he spoke it like he had known it long before tonight. Each syllable dropped heavy into the air, undeniable, inescapable. Her body trembled, anger warring with fear. How did he know? Why did he speak it, as though it belonged to him? Her lips parted, but no words came. Her throat was raw, scraped by dirt and screams, swallowed by earth. Her silence seemed to amuse him. One corner of his mouth tilted, not in kindness, but in something colder, like her pain confirmed a truth he already believed. She tried to crawl backward, nails dragging across stone, but the cliff caught her. Her shoulders pressed into jagged rock, leaving nowhere to go. Panic thrashed in her chest. And still, he didn't touch her. Not yet. He simply watched, gaze steady, waiting for something she didn't understand. The wolves stirred behind him. A growl rippled through the pack, and one stepped forward, lips peeled back, teeth bared. The Alpha's head turned, just slightly. His eyes flared gold, bright enough to burn. The wolf whimpered and dropped, body folding instantly, snout pressed to the ground. The clearing fell silent again. His power was not a threat. It was a fact. She closed her eyes, chest heaving, heart pounding too fast, too bright. The silver fire inside her flared in panic, veins glowing faintly beneath her skin. She pressed her arms tight to her body, trying to hide it, to bury it the way they tried to bury her. But the light betrayed her. It pulsed. It spread. His gaze snapped back to her, and for the first time, something broke through his mask. Not fear, not disgust. Recognition again, but deeper, sharper. He reached out. Her breath tore from her chest as his hand closed around her wrist. His grip was firm but not crushing, skin burning against hers. The silver fire erupted at the contact, surging out of her control, spilling into the night in blinding sparks. She gasped, twisting, trying to yank away, terrified the power would consume them both. But it didn't set. The flames licked along his skin, silver arcs crackling up his arm, dancing in his golden eyes, and he didn't flinch. He didn't recoil. His jaw tightened, breath deepening, but his hand held steady, unbroken. The fire burned around him without leaving ash. Her heart slammed against her ribs, panic tangling with something darker, something she refused to name. He leaned closer, voice low, threaded with steel and something that cut deeper than threat. "Stop running." She shook her head, tears spilling hot down her cheeks. Her voice finally broke free, hoarse and desperate. "Let me go." His eyes flickered gold again, brighter, hungrier, but his grip softened just enough to make her question him. Not tender, not merciful, but not cruel, either. His thumb brushed the inside of her wrist, a movement so small it might have been an accident, or not. The air thickened between them, crackling with the tension of fire meeting storm. She hated him. She feared him. Yet her body leaned toward his warmth against her will. Her chest ached with the pull of it. The dangerous possibility that maybe, just maybe, he was the only one who could hold her fire without burning. Behind them the pack stirred restlessly, uneasy with what they saw. Whispers rippled through the ranks. Some snarled, some whimpered, all of them waiting for his judgment. Her gaze lifted to his. Her voice broke in a whisper. "Why do you know my name?" He didn't answer. His silence was louder than any word. His eyes spoke instead, of secrets, of chains unseen, of battles fought in shadows. And in that silence, she understood one truth more terrifying than being buried alive. She was not running from him. She was running toward him. Her wrist trembled in his grip, the silver fire fading slowly into the night, until only her pulse remained beneath his fingers. She kept her eyes locked on him, searching for answers in the gold that flickered there, but all she found was silence, a silence that weighed heavier than any word. She dragged in a breath, lungs burning with the taste of dirt and fear. Her body wanted to collapse, to surrender to exhaustion, but her mind refused to quiet. His touch, his voice, the way he spoke her name, it tore something open inside her that she had sealed long ago. And suddenly she was not on that cliff anymore. She was a child again, standing in the center of the pack's stone circle. The memory rose unbidden, sharp as broken glass. The moon had been full that night, its cold light spilling across faces she once called family. Every gaze on her was hard, suspicious. Elders in dark robes circled, their voices chanting words she didn't understand then, but would never forget. Marked. Dangerous. Unfit. She remembered the taste of blood in her mouth, though no one had struck her. It was the blood of shame, of fear pressed so deep it broke something inside her. She remembered looking for her mother in the crowd, but her mother's eyes were lowered, her body trembling. No rescue came, not even a glance of comfort. They branded her cursed before she had shifted for the first time, before she had even understood what she was. Her eyes squeezed shut now, as though shutting him out could banish the past, but it didn't. The memory burned. The fire had come the next day. Not from the sky, not from any torch, but from inside her. She had woken with heat, crawling under her skin, light spilling from her fingertips in blinding sparks. The barn she slept in had caught before she could stop it, flames licking across wood until she screamed. But the flames didn't hurt her. They wrapped her in silver, wild and beautiful, but to her pack it was proof of the curse they had already declared. She remembered their faces when they saw. Fear twisted into hatred. Their alpha then, an older man with eyes as cold as stone, gave the order. They drove her out with snarls and teeth, her own cousins snapping at her heels. She had been 14. Since then, her nights had been nothing but exile. She had slept in barns abandoned to dust, curled on straw that cut her skin. She had scavenged scraps from markets, where no one dared look her in the eye. She had hidden in tree lines, watching pups chase each other under the moonlight, laughter echoing through the air like music she no longer had the right to hear. Every shadow reminded her she did not belong. Every howl cut into her like a blade. And yet, she never stopped listening. Her breath shuddered as the memory faded, the cliff and the alpha pulling her back into the present. His hand still circled her wrist, steady, unyielding. The warmth of his skin clashed with the cold night air, rooting her in a reality she wanted to escape, but couldn't. She opened her mouth, voice raw. They buried me because I burned. It wasn't meant for him. It wasn't even meant for herself. It was a confession thrown into the night, into the wind that had dragged her back from death. But his eyes caught the words, held them, refused to let them scatter. The pack shifted uneasily behind him, their ears twitching as if even they didn't want to hear what she carried. Her heart beat faster. She hated this, hated remembering, hated feeling the weakness of old wounds reopening. But his presence, his silence, pulled it from her like blood drawn from a vein. She had learned long ago that trust was death. That trust was what got you buried alive. But standing there pressed against the cliff with his golden gaze holding her like iron, something inside her wavered. And the memories kept coming. She saw herself smaller, thinner, wandering the edges of territory lines with her stomach hollow. She had curled in the hollow of an oak, shivering, listening to wolves celebrate a victory hunt in the distance. She had dug her nails into her arms, whispering to herself that she would never need them, never beg. But when the fire rose in her again, uncontrolled and hungry, she had cried into her palms, terrified that she would burn herself into ash. No one had taught her control. No one had given her guidance. Her flame was a secret she hid in the dirt, burying it beneath silence and scars. And still, it betrayed her. Her voice broke as the words slipped free, bitter and trembling. They said I'd destroy everything I touched. Maybe they were right. For the first time, his hand tightened, not harshly, but enough to anchor her. His voice came low, steady. Maybe they were afraid of what they couldn't control. Her eyes flew open. His expression had not softened. His jaw still set. His body still carved from shadow. But his words struck deeper than any kindness. Her throat ached. She wanted to scream at him, to push him back, to demand why he stood there now when every other alpha had turned their back on her. But the scream caught in her chest. Her anger faltered, tangled with something she didn't want to name. She wanted to believe him. But belief was a luxury she had buried with her body. Her gaze flicked to the pack behind him. She saw the way they looked at her, fearful, distrustful, like she was already fire creeping toward their homes. And she remembered what it meant to live under pack law. A wolf who disobeyed did not live long. A wolf who threatened the pack's survival was erased. That was the rule. Older than any prophecy, harsher than any alpha's decree. Hierarchies bound them tighter than blood, every rank enforced with tooth and claw, every life weighed against the pack's survival. The price of disobedience was death. She had paid it once already. Her body trembled under the weight of it. She pressed her free hand against the cliff, nails scraping stone, as though grounding herself against the urge to collapse. His voice cut through her thoughts again, low and unyielding. You stir not theirs to bury. Her chest tightened. The words should have meant nothing. They should have bounced off the armor she built through years of exile. But something in his tone, the certainty, the refusal to let the pack define her, hid a place inside her she didn't know was still alive. She hated him for that. hated that his presence cracked the walls she had held for so long. Her lips trembled as she whispered back, almost too quiet for even him to hear. "I don't belong anywhere." For the first time, something flickered in his face. Not pity, he didn't wear pity, but a shadow of understanding, a scarred recognition that he, too, had stood on the edge of belonging. The wind surged through the clearing then, sharp and sudden, as though echoing her confession. It whipped through her hair, stung her eyes, dragged cold tears down her cheeks. She turned her face into it, letting it strip her bare, letting it remind her that the world itself refused to let her die. She closed her eyes against the weight of it all, her voice breaking in the wind. "They called me cursed, and I let them." His silence pressed against her like a hand on her chest, steady, unrelenting. Her body sagged, exhaustion crushing her bones, but for the first time, she didn't collapse into emptiness. She collapsed into the certainty that he was still there, that his grip had not loosened, that his eyes had not looked away, and that terrified her more than being buried alive. The cliff faded behind them, swallowed by the forest's hush. She stumbled with each step, her body still trembling from exhaustion, but his hand never left her wrist. He guided her through the trees, the silence between them more dangerous than any words. Every root, every shadow seemed to lean closer, as if the forest itself knew what path they walked. The night deepened, stars scattering like shards of frost across the sky. The air grew heavier, carrying a scent older than wolves, older than the packs that ruled them. She felt it before she saw it, the pulse beneath the earth, faint but insistent, like a heartbeat echoing through stone. When the trees thinned, she froze. Before them stretched ruins, half swallowed by moss and time. Stones jutted from the earth like bones, their surfaces carved with runes worn smooth by centuries. Moonlight slid across them, cold and silver, but the moment her eyes met the carvings, something in her chest flared. Her knees buckled, a breath tearing from her lungs. The Alpha didn't move, didn't ask. His golden eyes watched as she stepped forward on her own, pulled by something she couldn't resist. Her fingers brushed one of the stones, rough and damp with moss, and the moment she touched it, the rune glowed. Not faint, not hesitant, but alive. Silver light spilled from her fingertips into the grooves, racing across the stone like veins igniting. One by one, the runes awoke, fire threading through the ruins until the whole place burned with quiet radiance. Her breath hitched. The silver flame that had always betrayed her, the fire that had ruined her, answered the stone as if it had been waiting for her all along. She staggered back, shaking her head, voice breaking. No, this isn't set me. This can set. The ground trembled. Flames rose, not from her, but from the runes themselves, twisting upward in arcs of light. Firelight wrapped around her vision, searing her eyes until she saw not the forest, not the Alpha, but something else. A vast cavern of shadow, chains hammered into the earth, and bound within them, a wolf larger than mountains, her fur white as snow, her eyes pools of endless fire. Silver chains cut into her body, glowing with a cruel light, each one forged with runes that pulsed like cages. The goddess. The wolf of old myths, the one whispered about in half-forgotten stories pups told each other by firelight. The wolf lifted her head, eyes finding hers. Firelight swallowed her whole, and in that fire came the whisper, soft as smoke yet sharp as thunder. The one who rises from the earth shall burn the false Alpha. Her body jolted as the vision shattered, the ruins rushing back into focus. Her chest heaved. Her palms burned. She stared at her hands, silver fire licking across her skin but refusing to consume her. No, she whispered. Not me. I'm no savior. I'm a mistake, buried alive. The Alpha stepped closer, his shadow cutting into the silver glow. His face held no awe, no surprise, only a grim certainty, as though he had always known this moment would come. I've been searching, he said, his voice low, steady, searching for the one with fire in her blood. Her head snapped toward him, rage flaring hotter than her fear. You knew? His gaze didn't waver. I knew someone would rise. The signs have been clear for years. Storms where there should be silence. Fires that never touched the trees but burned in the air itself. But I didn't know it would be you. Her chest constricted. The ruins glowed brighter around them, the runes pulsing with each beat of her heart. She wanted to scream at him, to demand why he hadn't left her buried where she belonged, but the words stuck. Because part of her, the part she had killed over and over, wanted to ask something else. Why me? Instead, she spat, voice shaking. You think I can burn your enemies for you? You think I'm your weapon? He stepped closer, his voice rougher now, pulled from someplace deeper. No. I think you're the only one who can burn the chains. The ruins hummed, as though echoing him. The light bled across the stones, wrapping the clearing in silver fire. Her flame twisted with it, drawn into shapes she couldn't control. Wolves etched in light, eyes burning, mouths open in eternal howls. She pressed her hands against her chest, trembling. I can't. You don't understand. I can't control this. It will destroy everything. It always destroys everything. He stopped in front of her, so close the heat of her fire brushed his skin. His jaw tightened, but he didn't flinch. His eyes locked on hers, gold burning against silver. Then let it destroy me first. The words cut sharper than claws. Her throat closed, her entire body caught between fury and something far more dangerous. The ruins shivered. The vision of the goddess still burned in her skull, the white wolf, chained in silver, waiting. The prophecy whispered like a wound that wouldn't close. The one who rises from the earth shall burn the false alpha. Her breath came ragged, chest heaving, but no matter how she tried to deny it, the truth pressed in. She was not a mistake. She was not a curse. She was the flame they had feared, because it was meant to rise. Her knees buckled. She dropped to the moss, hands curling into the dirt. Her body shook with the weight of it, with the horror of being chosen, with the fury of being chained to a destiny she never asked for. The alpha crouched beside her, silent, not touching this time, not claiming, only waiting. The ruins glowed around them, an ancient heart awakened, and in the fire's reflection, she saw herself, not as the cursed child buried in stone, but as something the Pax had whispered about for generations. And it terrified her more than any grave. The ruins still throbbed with silver fire when the first howl cut the night. Not a call of warning, not a cry of mourning, but the raw, vicious song of wolves closing in for blood. She froze where she knelt, fingers still dug into moss. Her heart hammered so hard the runes seemed to pulse with its rhythm. The alpha's head snapped toward the trees. His body shifted subtly, posture coiling like a spring ready to break. Gold flared in his eyes, and for a heartbeat, silence clung to the clearing. Then the forest exploded. Dark shapes burst from the tree line, snarls splitting the air. Rival wolves, massive, fur bristling, eyes alight with hatred, lunged forward in a blur of claws and fangs. Shadows twisted behind them, beasts that were not born of flesh but of something fouler, their forms shifting like smoke. The ground shook as they struck. Claws ripped through bark, sparks flew as teeth clashed against stone. Snarls echoed like thunder rolling across the ruins. She staggered back, chest clenching, fire flickering against her skin. Instinct screamed at her to run, but the light in the stones wrapped around her ankles, binding her to this place, forcing her to face it. The first wolf leapt at her, teeth bared. She flinched, then a blur of movement cut between them. The alpha. He slammed into the attacker midair, the sound of bodies colliding like two trees cracking in a storm. They hit the ground hard, rolling, claws tearing at fur, blood spraying across the moss. The rival wolf yelped but kept fighting, rage fueling every strike. Another shadow lunged for her. She scrambled back, hands braced in the dirt. Silver fire flared from her palms without command. shooting upward in a jagged burst. The beast shrieked, its smoky body writhing as the light burned holes straight through it. Her own power recoiled through her, searing her veins. She screamed, clutching her chest. "Curse!" A voice howled from the shadows. She should never have risen. Another joined it. The buried one must stay buried. More wolves emerged, circling, snarling, their eyes locked on her with something worse than hatred, fear. She shook her head, dirt and tears streaking her face. "No, I didn't ask for this. I don't want this." But the accusations cut sharper than fangs. "Destroyer. Cursed flame. She still bring ruin to us all." The Alpha tore free of one opponent, blood darkening his shoulder. He growled, chest heaving, and barked a command that shook the clearing. "She is under my protection." The circle wavered, but only for a moment. A gray wolf snarled, stepping forward, voice breaking with fury. "Your protection? She'll burn your throne, and you with it. You choose her over your own pack?" The words cut deep. She saw it in the Alpha's face, his jaw clenching, his body trembling between instinct and duty. His people's eyes bore into him, demanding an answer. Her stomach twisted. This wasn't just her fight. It was his, and protecting her meant tearing himself from everything he'd sworn to lead. Another rival lunged. This time she didn't wait. Silver fire burst from her skin, uncontrolled, blinding the clearing with its flare. Wolves yelped and staggered back, but the fire seared her as well, every nerve screaming under its burn. She dropped to her knees, shaking. The Alpha caught her arm before she fell face first into the dirt. His touch steadied her flame, pulling it back, forcing it to simmer. His eyes locked on hers, fierce and unyielding. "You are not their curse." But his people shouted louder, drowning him out. "She shall destroy us. She should have stayed in the grave." A chorus of howls rose, unified, damning her. Her chest caved in. She couldn't breathe under the weight of it. The Alpha's body shielded her, but she saw the fracture in his gaze. He couldn't protect her and keep his people. He was being forced to choose. And she couldn't let him. With the last of her strength, she shoved away from him, breaking his grip. Her flame surged outward, forming a wall of light between them. His eyes widened, gold glinting with something like desperation. But he didn't push through. He couldn't. She stumbled backward, the circle parting as her fire lashed against the ground. Tears blurred her vision, but she forced her voice past the lump in her throat. "I don't need you. I don't need anyone." Then she turned and ran. Through the smoke, through the snarls, through the forest that swallowed her whole. Her lungs burned. Her legs screamed. But she didn't stop until the ruins were gone. The Alpha's shadow lost behind her. His golden eyes burned into her memory like a wound that would never close. She swore to herself, with every ragged breath tearing her chest, she would never beg for his protection again. Never. And yet, the wind chased her, tugging her hair, whispering her name through the trees, as if destiny had no intention of letting her go. The forest did not chase her forever. When her body could take no more, her legs buckled, and she collapsed among the roots of an ancient pine. Her chest heaved, each breath dragging fire through her ribs. The silver flame within her flickered weakly, more ember than blaze, leaving her cold and shaking. For a long time she lay curled against the earth, listening to her own ragged breaths, the thud of her heartbeat echoing in her ears. She had sworn she didn't need him, sworn she would never be bound by his protection, and yet, the memory of his golden eyes wouldn't let her go. The wind shifted. A scent cut through the damp air, smoke, pine, and blood. She lifted her head slowly, body tensing. He was there. The Alpha stepped out of the shadows, silent, as though the forest itself had carried him to her. His shirt was torn, his shoulder dark with drying blood, but his stance held the same unyielding command. And yet, there was no battle fire in his gaze now, only quiet. She wanted to push herself up, to flee again, but her body betrayed her. Exhaustion held her down, chains stronger than any grave. He crouched beside her. No words, no demands, only the sound of his breath mingling with hers. From the fold of his cloak, he tore a strip and pressed it gently against her arm, where the brambles had left raw welts. She flinched. Dawn fought. "I'm not asking permission," he said softly. "You'll bleed out before you prove your strength." His fingers brushed her skin as he wrapped the wound. Rough, scarred hands, but careful, steady, as though he feared breaking her. She hated the way her chest tightened, the way her throat thickened with something dangerously close to surrender. The night deepened around them, the forest no longer hostile but hushed, watching. A cave opened at the base of the ridge nearby, hidden by ferns and stone. Without another word, he lifted her, slowly, giving her time to resist if she wished. She didn't. She couldn't. The cave swallowed them in shadow, cool and still. He laid her carefully on a bed of moss and lit a small fire. The flicker of flame painted his face in shades of gold and shadow. She studied him from where she lay, his strong jaw, the line of his throat, the scars crossing his arms. He carried his battles like a second skin. The silence stretched, heavy but not empty. Finally she whispered, "Why are you here?" His gaze didn't leave the fire. "Because you ran into the woods bleeding and half dead." "That's not what I meant." He looked at her then. His eyes caught the firelight, molten, searching. "You think I should have let them finish it? Buried you twice." Her chest tightened, memories clawing up, dirt filling her lungs, her pack's voices damning her, the silence when they walked away. She forced her eyes closed, but the tremor in her voice betrayed her. "I don't it's saving." His reply came low, steady. "Maybe not, but you needed someone to stay." The words cracked something inside her. She turned her face from him, blinking fast against the burn in her eyes. He didn't press. He simply fed the fire, the warmth chasing the damp from the cave. After a moment, he shrugged off his cloak and draped it across her shoulders. The scent of pine and smoke clung to it, grounding, steady. She gripped the fabric with trembling hands, as though it might keep her from shattering. She studied him in the firelight. The lines of his body were strong, but not invincible. A scar carved deep across his ribs, jagged and pale. She couldn't stop herself from asking, "How did you get that?" He glanced down at it, then back to the fire. "Challenger. Years ago, he wanted my place. He didn't get it." "And the one across your hand?" His lips curved in something not quite a smile. "My own father. He said I'd never lead. I broke his jaw the same night." The confession hung in the air, sharp and bitter, yet vulnerable in a way she had never expected. Her chest rose and fell, uneven. "You carry your scars like armor." His gaze lifted to hers. "And you carry yours like chains." The words struck too true. She looked away, the firelight blurring as her throat closed. Silence stretched again. But this time, it wasn't distance, it was gravity, drawing them closer, word by word, breath by breath. He shifted nearer, his knee brushing hers. Her pulse jumped, heat rising under her skin where the silver fire slumbered. His hand lifted, slow enough for her to stop him, and brushed dirt gently from her cheek. The touch lingered, rough thumb tracing skin tender from tears. Her breath caught. She should pull back. She should run. Instead she leaned, almost imperceptibly, into his hand. The cave narrowed, the fire burning low, the night pressing in. She heard nothing but the rhythm of his breath, the steady thrum of his heart. It was faster now, matching hers, sinking as though the space between them no longer mattered. He bent closer, close enough for his warmth to blend with hers, for his breath to ghost across her lips. The silver fire stirred within her, not raging, not wild, but pulsing, steady, drawn to him. Her lips parted, her eyes fluttered shut. The world stilled, balanced on the edge of something that could burn them both. And then she pulled back. "No." The word tore from her like a wound. Her voice trembled. "I can't." His hand dropped, but not in anger. His gaze remained on her, steady, unwavering. "You think I don't see it?" he said softly. "The fear, the fire, the weight you carry." He leaned closer still, voice a whisper meant for her alone. "I see you, all of you, and I don't look away." Her heart stuttered. The silver flame surged in her chest, aching against her ribs. She wanted to believe him. She wanted to let herself fall into that gaze, that promise. But the scars of earth still clung to her, the taste of dirt still on her tongue, the memory of betrayal carved too deep. She turned her face away, clutching his cloak tighter around her shoulders. The fire burned low, shadows stretching across the cave walls. Silence fell again, but this time it wasn't empty, it was waiting. She lay awake long after he had closed his eyes, staring at the cave ceiling, his words echoing in her chest. "I see you, all of you, and I don't look away." The wind outside shifted, brushing the cave's mouth, carrying her name into the night. She shivered beneath his cloak, torn between fear and something far more dangerous, hope. The dawn came without warmth. Mist curled low across the forest floor, wrapping the cave mouth in pale veils. She had not slept, only lay rigid beneath his cloak, staring at the stone ceiling until her eyes ached. His words still echoed in her chest, dangerous and steady. "I see you, all of you, and I don't look away." But the world had always looked away. She knew it would again. She slipped from his cloak and rose quietly. The fire had died to ashes, the air sharp with the damp chill of morning. He slept in the corner, head bowed, arm resting across his knee. Even at rest, he was power-coiled, scarred shoulders, rising and falling in steady rhythm. She watched him longer than she should, then turned her face from him and stepped toward the cave mouth. The forest was still, too still. She felt it before she heard it. The shift of air, the snap of a twig not born of wind. Her skin prickled. She moved into the clearing, and there, emerging from the mist, came the shadow of her past. A figure cloaked in the colors of her old pack. Her breath caught. The shape solidified into a man she knew all too well. Tall, broad, with eyes like broken stone. Once he had called her sister. Once he had thrown dirt onto her grave. "You," she breathed, the word cutting like glass. His smile was thin, cruel. "We buried you, and yet, here you are. The prophecy keeps proving itself." The Alpha stirred behind her, awake now, his presence sharp, commanding. He stepped into the clearing, golden eyes narrowed. "Who are you to track her here?" The spy didn't flinch. His gaze never left hers. "The council knows. They know she breathes. And they've spoken." Her blood chilled. "What have they said?" she forced out. His voice rang like a verdict. "Your flame is no gift. It is the curse that will burn us all. The council decrees you hunted, your fire extinguished before it consumes what remains." Her chest tightened, the silver ember within her sparking with fury and grief. She had known they feared her. She had never thought they would brand her as doom itself. The Alpha's jaw clenched, his body tensed as though caught between two blows. She turned to him, desperate, searching his face. His eyes were shadowed, unreadable. "Say it isn't set true," she whispered. He didn't speak. The spy's voice slid like a knife. "Even your Alpha knows his duty. He cannot stand against the council for you. He will not." "No," she breathed, shaking her head. "You said you saw me. You said you didn't look away." His lips parted, but no words came. Only silence. Heavy, damning silence. Her stomach hollowed. The air ripped from her lungs. She staggered back as though struck, cloak slipping from her shoulders. Her scars burned. Her chest ached with betrayal deeper than any wound. "You hesitate," she choked, voice raw. "After everything you hesitate." His hand lifted, reaching but too late. Her vision blurred, her heart pounding with a rhythm not her own. The ember inside her roared, not gentle this time, not steady, furious, uncontrollable. The spy's smirk deepened. There, The curse shows itself. Something in her broke. The silver fire tore from her chest, with a sound like the sky splitting. The clearing erupted in blinding light, searing heat rolling outward in violent waves. Trees shuddered, bark blackening under the surge. The spy's smile collapsed into a scream, his body flung back by the force. She gasped, clutching her chest, but the fire did not stop. It spilled from her hands, her breath, her very skin, flaring bright enough to blind. The Alpha shielded his face, his golden eyes wide, not with anger, but with something worse. Fear. Her heart wrenched. "You were supposed to stay," she whispered, voice lost in the storm of her power. "You were supposed to believe." The fire surged higher, silver arcs crackling through the mist, tearing branches from their roots. The earth shook beneath her feet. She could not contain it. She no longer wanted to. The last thing she saw was his silhouette, strong, unyielding, but frozen where he stood, not reaching, not choosing. The betrayal carved itself deep into her soul, and then she let go. The fire consumed the clearing in one final flare, a violent bloom of silver light that shattered stone, splintered trees, and swallowed the mist. When the brightness dimmed, the clearing lay in ruin. Smoke curled from charred earth, branches scorched black, silence ringing where life had once breathed. She was gone, vanished into the storm, leaving only the echo of her power and the hollow silence of what could have been. The Alpha stood alone among the ashes, cloak torn, golden eyes staring into the destruction. His hands were empty. His chest rose and fell, as though each breath cut him from within. He had not stopped her. He had not saved her. And the forest knew it. The mask of the Alpha, unyielding, untouchable, slipped at last. For the first time he bowed his head, and grief shadowed the man the world believed unbreakable. The forest did not recover from her flare. It smoldered. Charred branches reached like skeletal hands into a sky bruised purple with storm. Ash clung to the wind, drifting through the ruins of the clearing, a funeral shroud for everything she'd left behind. But the world was not merciful. The enemy chose this moment to strike. From the shadows of the ravaged trees, they came, wolves chained in iron, eyes glazed with compulsion, their snarls not their own. Behind them surged figures cloaked in black, their hands slick with cruel magic, dragging the enslaved wolves forward like broken weapons. And above it all, flames erupted, not hers this time, but conjured fire, dark, hungry, unnatural. It leapt across the forest like a living tide, devouring what her power had already weakened. The land groaned beneath it. She staggered into the chaos, lungs heaving, her body aching from the storm she herself had unleashed. Her hands trembled, silver sparks flickering faint but defiant. She had run from him, from them, from herself, but here, at the brink of annihilation, there was no longer anywhere to run. Chains clattered as one of the enslaved wolves lunged at her. Its eyes were milky with compulsion, foam dripping from its jaws. Her chest tightened. She knew that wolf. She had seen him once at a distance, a boy not much older than her, laughing as he tumbled in the river with his packmates. Now he was nothing but a weapon, teeth bared to kill. Her flames surged, instinctive. Silver fire spilled from her palm, meeting his strike midair. The compulsion shattered in an instant, the chains glowing red-hot before snapping apart. The boy collapsed, chest heaving, eyes clearing as tears spilled down his soot-streaked face. She gasped, trembling. Her fire hadn't destroyed him. It had freed him. The ember inside her burned hotter, steadier. All around her, wolves fought against chains, snarls twisting into cries of pain. The forest was chaos, fire consuming bark, magic tearing roots from soil, shadows stretching like vipers across the earth. Above it all, laughter echoed. Not the laughter of her pack, not the laughter of any rival alpha. This was deeper, older, poisoned with triumph. From the smoke, he stepped forward. The true alpha, Not the one she had once thought destined to save her, not the rival wolves whose claws tore bark from trees. No, this was the shadow behind every betrayal, the hand that had orchestrated her burial, her exile, her torment. His presence silenced the chaos for a heartbeat. Tall, cloaked in black, his eyes glowed red gold, not of sunlight but of fire fed by blood. Around his shoulders hung chains, not binding him, but trophies forged from those he had conquered. You should have stayed beneath the dirt. His voice rolled low, heavy as thunder. But you rose, and so now, you must burn the way the prophecy promised. Her heart pounded, but not with fear this time, with fury. The silver flame surged in her veins, not erratic, not wild, controlled, claiming her. Her body glowed from within, every scar lit like molten silver etched into her skin. The wind shifted, carrying her breath, her heartbeat, her rage until it seemed the forest itself pulsed with her. Chains rattled, the ground cracked, the flames bent toward her, no longer consuming but waiting, like beasts ready to answer her call. She stepped forward, eyes burning silver white. I am not your curse, her voice carried, not just through the clearing, but into the very marrow of every soul forced to hear it. The enslaved wolves froze, their chains quivering as though listening. The fire curled back, recoiling like a tide pulled by her will. She raised her hand, silver light spilling upward, and the very air trembled. I am not your sacrifice. I am your reckoning. The ground split with her words. Roots tore upward, stone cracked, and the flames surged higher, no longer dark, but luminous, blazing silver as they shaped themselves, into the form of a wolf, towering, radiant, eyes glowing like her own, a living flame, a guardian birthed from her blood. Gasps and snarls rose from the enemy ranks. The enslaved wolves stumbled back, some collapsing as their chains shattered one by one, unable to hold under the pressure of her rising power. The darker alpha did not flinch. His lips curled into a smile. Finally, the fire shows itself. Do you think it will save you? You are a weapon, girl, and weapons are made to be wielded. Her chest heaved, her flame wolf howling beside her, silver fire crackling against the storm. She met his gaze and did not look away. You chained them, she said, voice shaking the leaves from branches. You fed lies into their blood. You buried me alive to silence me, but you will not break me. Not now, not ever. His laugh was a growl, low and cruel. You are nothing but prophecy's pawn. Her flame flared brighter, searing through the smoke, illuminating every scar, every bruise, every fracture she had survived. She had been called cursed, unwanted, a mistake. She had been buried beneath the earth by the ones who should have loved her. And yet she had risen. The silver fire blazed higher, wrapping around her body, no longer a flicker but a storm. Her heart no longer trembled with fear. It beat with conviction, every thrum echoing through the forest like a war drum. I am not your pawn, she whispered, voice laced with fire, then louder, sharper, until it roared across the battlefield. I am the flame you feared. I am the wolf you buried, and I am done hiding. The flame wolf lunged, silver jaws snapping with the fury of a goddess unchained. The earth quaked beneath the clash, fire meeting shadow, silver tearing through the dark blaze of the enemy's power. The wolves who had been chained rose, free now, their voices uniting in howls that split the storm. Some ran to her side, eyes burning with loyalty they hadn't known they still had. Others collapsed, broken, but no longer bound. The battle erupted anew, but this time, it was not destruction that answered her fire. It was freedom. The darker alpha bared his teeth, shadows twisting around him like a crown of rot, his gaze locked on her, unyielding. Then come, flame-born, show me if you can burn a god. She stepped forward, silver fire rolling with her like a tide that could not be stopped. Her scars glowed, her heartbeat thundered, and for the first time, she did not feel like a mistake. She felt inevitable. The fire did not vanish. It lingered, silver and raw, licking the edges of broken trees, smoldering against shattered stone. The flame wolf she had summoned stood frozen beside her, no longer snarling, no longer moving, but radiating heat, like a guardian carved from light. Its glow softened the battlefield, casting shadows across the kneeling figures scattered among ash and ruin. For the first time, silence blanketed the forest. The chains were gone. The enslaved wolves crouched low, trembling, some clutching their chests, as if they could not believe the freedom rushing through their veins. Others pressed their foreheads to the soil, not in reverence, but in fear. They had seen her burn the compulsion from their souls. They had seen her summon fire that answered no alpha, but her own blood. And yet, even freed, many would not meet her eyes. She felt it, the sting sharper than any claw. Awe, yes, but layered beneath it, terror. They saw her not as a savior, but as something untouchable, too powerful, too dangerous, a force that did not belong to them, but above them. Her chest heaved as she looked across the ruined clearing, every breath aching like glass. This was what she had wanted, wasn't it? To be seen, to no longer be buried, to no longer be ignored. And now they did see her, but not as a woman, not as one of them. As fire. The thought hollowed her, even as the power sang in her veins. Ash crumbled under the weight of approaching footsteps. She turned. The Alpha stepped forward, his figure cut through the haze, broad shoulders etched with soot, golden eyes flickering like embers. He had fought beside her, torn through shadow to reach her side, and yet she had not looked at him until now. His hand lifted, slow, deliberate, as if reaching for something he wasn't sure he had the right to touch. Her breath caught. The fire inside her trembled, drawn to him, leaping faint sparks toward his outstretched palm. He didn't flinch. His voice was low, roughened by smoke and battle. You don't have to stand alone. The words struck her harder than any blow. She had stood alone her entire life, in rejection, in exile, in the dirt they buried her in. And now, after the storm she had unleashed, could she dare to believe him? She stared at his hand, at the rough scars crossing his knuckles, at the strength she had once hated, once feared, a strength that had now been the only thing steady in the storm. The silence pressed in. Wolves shifted uneasily, their gazes flicking between her glowing figure and the Alpha, who dared to step closer. Some whispered, too soft to hear. Others lowered their heads, unwilling to witness what might happen if she took his hand. Her throat tightened, her flame burned hotter, brighter, her skin pulsing with heat she could not tame. If she touched him, would she burn him? If she trusted him, would she be betrayed again? She did not move. The Alpha's hand lingered in the air, patient, trembling ever so slightly. His eyes locked on hers. Let them fear if they must, he said, voice raw with something deeper than command. I don't fear you. I never have. Her heart twisted, torn between the memory of betrayal and the fragile thread of hope his words offered. The flame wolf at her side flickered, as though waiting for her choice. And then, silence fractured. The narrator Sep's voice curled through the stillness, lyrical, haunting, cutting straight into the marrow of the moment. Would you have chosen her, or feared her too? If you had seen her rise from the dirt, glowing with fire that could free or destroy, would you have taken her hand, or turned away? The wind stirred, carrying ash like snow. Wolves held their breath. The Alpha's hand remained, inches from hers. Is she salvation, or fire that will consume us all? Her heart thundered, silver flames coiling around her arms like restless serpents. The answer hovered in the air, untouchable, waiting. The narrator Sep's voice deepened, soft and reverent, turning from question to invocation. If this story set your soul ablaze, if you felt the fire tremble inside you as hers trembled inside her, then stay. Subscribe to Clarissa Romance Collections. Because here, we tell tales that burn into your heart, tales of love clawed from the ashes, of power claimed when the world tried to bury it. Here, you will always find fire. The flame wolf howled, the sound carrying into the broken night like prophecy fulfilled. And the moment hung, her hand hovering between rejection and trust, between ruin and redemption. Would she take his hand? Or let the fire consume her alone? The silence gave no answer. Only the storm. Her steps were slow, heavy, each one echoing like a drumbeat against the fractured earth. The battlefield still smoked around her, a graveyard of shattered trees and broken wolves. Her cloak, once black, hung in tatters from her shoulders, scorched by the silver fire that had erupted from within her. The glow still lingered faintly at her fingertips, pulsing like a dying ember, proof of the storm she had unleashed, and the cost it demanded. The others stayed back, silent, their eyes filled with awe and unease. No one dared follow her. Not even him. The alpha watched her walk away, his chest rising and falling with a restrained desperation, but he did not close the distance. Duty, fear, and desire warred inside him, and she felt it like chains pulling at her spine. Her breath clouded in the cool night, sharp against the silence. She kept moving, refusing to turn, refusing to let them see the crack forming at the edge of her resolve. Every step was a choice, every step a vow. She would not be claimed. She would not be sacrificed. She would not burn for them again. The forest throbbed with unnatural quiet, broken only by the crunch of her boots against charred soil. But then, something shifted. The earth beneath her feet trembled, subtle at first, then stronger, like a heartbeat rising from the core of the world. She froze. A low murmur slipped through the smoke. It wasn't her voice. It wasn't the alpha's. It came from everywhere at once. A whisper threaded through the trees, seeping into the marrow of her bones. She is not the only one. Her blood chilled. The words curled in the air like smoke, ancient and venomous. Shadows moved at the tree line, not wolves, not human, something older, something watching. The flames around her palms sputtered, dimmed, then guttered out, leaving only the echo of heat. Vulnerability pressed against her ribs, sharp and suffocating. She raised her head, eyes narrowing against the dark, but there was nothing to see, only the feeling of being hunted. Behind her, the pack stirred, uneasy murmurs cutting through the silence. They hadn't heard the whisper. Only she had. The weight of it settled on her shoulders, heavier than the cloak she dragged behind her. The alpha called her name, voice breaking through the hush, but she did not answer. She could not. Her throat felt locked, her heart beating too fast, too loud. She tightened her grip on the cloak, forcing her legs forward again. One step, then another. The ground trembled harder, as though mocking her defiance. The whisper repeated, softer this time, more insidious. She is not the only one. Her jaw clenched. She wanted to scream, to demand what it meant, who it spoke for, what new terror was stirring in the dark. But deep down, she already knew the story wasn't ending. The storm had only broken its surface. She walked into the night, silver dimming from her skin, leaving behind the ruins of trust, of love, of loyalty. The pack stared after her, caught between worship and dread, but none dared follow. Her figure blurred into the smoke. Then she was gone. And in the silence she left behind, the earth rumbled once more, like a promise. Fade to black.